Welcome back to Photorec TV. I'm Toby, and this is the Tamron 28-200 f2.8-5.6 lens. It's a super convenient lens capable of capturing everything from astrophotography, landscapes, and even some wildlife. It's relatively lightweight. I found it to offer very good sharpness across the range. There's gotta be a catch. This video is brought to you by the Photo Enthusiast Network. See, I founded PEN along with several other professional photographers because we wanted to provide a place for photographers of all abilities to learn and grow. Now more than ever, it's important to have a place where you feel like you belong and you can talk passionately about things that excite you. You see, PEN is more than just a collection of photography and Lightroom how-to videos. It is also a fantastic community of some of the nicest people online who also happen to be photographers. And as I said, it's so important right now, where many of us are more isolated than normal, to have a place where you can communicate with others around your passions. We are offering an introductory rate of just $24 a year to join. You get access to hundreds of videos and articles with new content being added every week, plus access to our forum and private Facebook group. I'm incredibly proud of what we offer and the community that has come together that will support you improving your photography. Learn more and join now for just $24 a year at photorec.tv/pen. As I said, this is the Tamron 28-200 f2.8-5.6 lens. I'm not typically a big fan of do-it-all lenses. I mean, yes, they are convenient. One lens covering a wide range. Less lens switching, so less dust on your sensor and fewer missed shots because you had the wrong lens on. But that all comes at a cost. I mean, see, when you build one lens to rule them all, you often sacrifice sharpness, you're going to get some more distortion, and you're going to end up with a slower lens, meaning smaller apertures when you compare versus a lens that covers a shorter focal range. We'll dig into that in more detail in a moment, but first, let's look at this lens and talk a little bit about build quality. The Tamron 28-200 continues Tamron's design of simplicity. Beyond the lens lock switch, we've got nothing. There's no AF/MF switch, instead relying on you using the menu to switch between focus modes. There's no customizable focus hold. There's no stabilization switch because we don't have a stabilized lens. It instead relies on Sony's sensor stabilization. What we do have is a solid and compact lens that is roughly the same size and weight as Tamron's 28-75 f2.8, and they share the same 67mm filter threads. I own the Tamron 28-75, and along with the 17-28 and the little 20 right here, I've been very happy with the build quality. The Tamron 28-75 especially, I've owned it for over 2.5 years. It's traveled with me extensively during that time, and it's held up really well. I expect the same of the 28-200. But let's talk about what many of you are wondering. What are those sacrifices? Well, first I was curious about sharpness. I looked at this lens compared to the 28-75, and they're very similar. The 28-75 is a bit sharper, but the difference isn't dramatic. At the wider range, 28, you can definitely notice at 1:1 that the 28-75 is sharper. Past 75, I didn't compare it to anything, but I did a lot of pixel peeping on the photos, and I find this lens to be very sharp out at the longer ranges, especially at 200. Very happy with the quality there. Distortion-wise, it's fine. Nothing that can't automatically be fixed in Lightroom. And that brings us to the aperture range discussion. See, starting at f2.8, that's rare for a do-it-all lens, and it helps make this lens more versatile. As I shared in the opening, this lens is capable of photographing the stars. Ideally, a good astrophotography lens is a little wider than 28mm, but it's certainly wide enough, and that f2.8 aperture really helps. But what you want to know is, what apertures do you get as you zoom? Well, you get that f2.8 for just 4mm until 32mm. Then you're at f3.2 until 43, f3.5 until 54, f4 until 78, f4.5 until 114mm, f5 until 145, and then f5.6 out to 200. So while you certainly don't get f2.8 at 75 like you would with the 28 to 75 f2.8, you do still get a very respectable f4. And when you compare this difference visually, depending on our subject distance, the difference can be quite subtle. And f5.6 out at 200 millimeters, that's very respectable. That's the same aperture you would get from the more expensive and shorter range Sony 70 to 300 FE lens. And that 200 millimeters, as I said, it's very sharp, and I found it to be long enough for backyard wildlife or tamer wildlife that you might find in a national park, especially if you pair it with a higher megapixel camera like the A7R series that allows you a little bit more room to crop. Now, I've been shooting with this lens on my Sony A7R III for the last couple of months, and that included a trip to Glacier National Park. Overall, I'm impressed. You get an extremely convenient lens with no real drawbacks. But there is an issue that I need to mention. It doesn't always focus. And here's the dangerous part of that. It reports that it has correctly focused. It gives you a nice little green confirmation box, but if you take the time to look closely, it hasn't always nailed focus. And if you were reviewing these photos after the fact, I think it would be really easy to think you just missed focus now and then. It was actually a few weeks into shooting before I started to notice the issue, and then another week or so before I could actually confirm it. Now, this sounds like a big deal breaker. A lens that doesn't correctly focus but pretends like it is, well, it's not that bad, because Tamron has actually had other issues with these FE lenses on release. They've all had some similar issues in one way or another, and they've all been fixed by firmware updates. So I expect we'll see a firmware update for the 28 to 200 soon. You might want to wait until you hear about that if you're looking to buy this. But overall, if you are looking for a good, do-it-all, travel-friendly lens for your Sony camera, I can happily recommend this lens. If you appreciated this video, hit that thumbs up button, and don't forget to subscribe along with pressing the little bell so you'll be notified of future videos. If you got plans to purchase this or any of these gear bits I've talked about, you can use the links right down below. Your use of those links does help this channel. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.